8,000 people in Bible studies every week in the midst of these kind of situations is pretty amazing for them. I mean, they're the ones doing the work of ministry. We're doing training and providing materials. We're building them up, equipping them for ministry, like Ephesians 4 says, that the gifts are given in the body to build it up for the effective work of ministry. And that's what we do.
Okay. All right, everyone. So here we are in this episode of the Light on the Trail podcast, and I am joined by Tammie and Joe Friberg. Is that correct?
That's right.
I did it. Okay. Thank y'all so much. We were just talking for a second, but we had talked before, and I had ran one of the Run4Bibles races also, and I really wanted y'all on. It kind of really fits my podcast format about trail running with a little bit of, God's word in there and talking and kind of like touch of Christianity, I like to kind of put it. But and y'all, we'll get into all of that. I want to cover the Run4Bibles races, why and what that is, equip disciples, what that is, and the missions and everything going on in Africa and the Congo, and kind of y'all's background and everything. So we'll get into all that. There's going to be a lot. So thank y'all again for joining me here. I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having us here today. This is a good opportunity for us to get some more word out about our races and our ministry.
Yes, 100%. I'm glad I'm able to share, and that's kind of the goal of this too. It's running involved also, but it can also bring more eyes and ears to what y'all do and help your mission and everything. And then if someone wants to just run the great race that y'all kind of put on of the two, and we'll get into that. It's a lot of good stuff. So first off, let's see. I want to talk about, since it's just right around the corner, I'll try not to hop back and forth between race and Africa and the missions and things, but I'm sure they're all kind of joined. It'll happen. So first one coming up 2 weeks from now, March 1st, is the marathon trail race. And there's other, kind of step down from that, the half and everything else, race that y'all put on. It's at the same location, the Cedar Ridge Nature Preserve. It also has the Nuit race, and we'll get into that too. And that was a very exciting, very neat race. So those are coming up. So why would a ministry start putting on running events or races? And however y'all want to crack that egg open, you go ahead.
Well, we're both trail runners, and we both have our own business. We're bivocational ministers. So we were needing to find a way to fundraise. And we thought, well, we should do a run since we love running and we're out there on the trails. And we thought this would be a great opportunity. And so about 2008, we started just a 5K, just to kind of get our feet wet. And then we've moved up from there. And we also thought, there's this genre of runners who run these ultras who maybe don't have much exposure to Christian ministry or anything like that. So we thought, hey, this is a great opportunity just to provide a kind of a nourishing time for them, an encouraging time for them. And, having Christian volunteers who encourage them on the trails, and we provide great food too. So, they come back for the food. So anyway, we use that also as a ministry opportunity for the people here in the USA.
Yeah. And Joe, when I did the Nuit last year, which I love, and we'll get into that too once we get down there, but it's such a cool event. And they're both again at the Cedar Ridge Nature Preserve, which is a bit of a monster of a course. There's lots of steps, but it's really jam-packed with everything in there. But I do, you read some scripture there and prayed, and I love that, and I was kind of expecting that because this is Run4Bibles, so people would assume like, oh, this has some kind of Christian foundation and everything. So, and no, it was definitely on display there. Hey guys, thank you for coming out. Let's pray. Let's think for this. Here's some word. All right, go get it. And it was a fantastic event. So I encourage anyone who's thinking about it to go there. So that was going to be another question, but that's what I figured. Did y'all more than likely had a history in running as well? Were you both like cross country or like outside of college or school or just kind of for fun?
No, it's really been more after sitting at a desk for many, many years, I finally got to. Tammie's been running on the streets and all for many years, and probably all of our married life, etc. But I was very much of a desk potato, and it wasn't until in late 40s that I actually started felt the real need to get out and to get the blood moving. And so then I love being outside, seeing God's creation out there, being able to pray on the trails, etc. So I started off doing a little bit of walking, and after a couple of months, that wasn't enough exercise, so I started running a little bit. And after a couple of years, I actually finally ran my first 10 miles, at a stretch in a day on my 50th birthday. So that was, kind of a milestone there. And then shortly after that, we started looking at, okay, well, there's these trail runs out there. And so we started getting interested in that and started looking at, okay, there's a half marathon here, et cetera. And as soon as I was in the middle of the half marathon, I started thinking about, okay, when am I going to run a marathon? And so I started moving up from there. And so it's been a journey from there. It's been a good one, though.
Now, Joe has done ultra races. He's being a little bit modest there. But what is it, 30 mile or 50 mile? I don't remember.
50K is 50K, my kind of favorite distance that I've done the most. And I've done a couple of 50 milers. So, and it'd be great to move up from there. But the last few years, I've not gotten as much training time. So it's all right, though. I want to get back there.
Very, very good. Yeah, I really like the 50K distance as well. I have I've run 150, and then my longest distance, which is why I'm not able to run y'all's race, is because just the next weekend, the Saturday, the 8th, is my first 100K. So that's kind of the main goal. So that'll be the new biggest distance and biggest race. So that is why I will not be there. But yes. So that's great. Yeah, great. And how you say just being out in creation, that really helps me. And people ask me, it seems like common. They're like, why would you do that? Why do you run so long? Like, yeah, running's nice, but like, that's a long time and everything. Some people really enjoy just the time on feet and getting out there, but it keeps me really kind of humble and grateful and grounded. And that's what I tell people. It's like, I pray a lot when I'm out there running, and just, be grateful that I have like the air in my lungs to do this. And you get to see, you're in nature. So that's cool too. If you like hiking and being outside anyway. That's what brings me more to the trails. The road is nice too, or pavement. It has its place too, but I like being out in the woods when I can. It blocks some of the wind. I despise the wind greatly. So being in the trees, it helps cut some of the wind out, which is fantastic. So with Tammie, do you have kind of the same, like went from road and into some trail too, or you've kind of just like always done all the disciplines or anything?
Well, I've done, I love biking also. So I did a lot of road biking and running. And yes, because of Joe, actually, I started doing trails. We started hiking and then we started running. And yes, now I love it. It's wonderful being out in God's creation and breathing very, very fresh air as far as the streets go. You always get the car fumes. So, but I don't do quite as long distances. I go up to half marathon, but I'm there to support him. And I just don't have time to prepare for the really long runs.
Yes,
I would do it.
That is, it's a part of it. If you're going to train for it, then you need, if it's going to get longer, then your training needs to be long. You're like, so if I'm going to run for 12 hours, I need to at least have training runs that are like 2 hours or longer. You're like, oh my gosh, man. Yeah, that's exactly where I am right now. So wonderful. That's why I figured y'all had either a real appreciation for running or a background in it and everything. So mixing the two, right, with the running and the Run4Bibles and then Equip Disciples, how did those come together? Was Equip Disciples first, or is that something y'all started or became a part of? And then you've kind of already said you mixed the running into to bring that to kind of the running crowd. And that's exactly why I made my podcast, is because I really like running. I like working and playing with audio and stuff, but also I felt like I had to bring, I have to talk about some verses or scripture or something in here every once in a while, bring some glory to God in that. And I just really enjoy it. And there's, even if it's a small niche of people that like running and are Christians, but then there's also the point of it opens another door, like you said, to people that maybe unfamiliar or just not sure, or they need to be reached a different way. So it's fantastic. But yeah, so how did Equip Disciples start? Did y'all do and kind of all that stuff?
Right. So we had been involved in various missions, emphases and all at our church and all for a number of years. But then there came a point in time where we started getting more focused on a particular area in Africa with the Congo, and also then shortly after that, we in Kenya and then Rwanda. And so we saw the need to actually found our own organization, Equip Disciples, and to start that as to support the focused ministry that we were doing in training church leaders in these areas, because there's not a lot of opportunity for seminary, Bible training, or even Bible studies in a lot of these countries. And so we were focused on helping the people train leaders to train who would then go out and be leading their people in getting deeper in the Word. And so that's how we started back in 2008.
Okay. I may add to that a bit. Backing up a bit, Joe and I actually met in high school in a Bible study, and
yeah.
We have kind of copied that pattern of discipleship. And so we both have seminary degrees. We both had a view to writing curriculum and doing missional work. So when the time came after we had our kids, we thought, this is the right time for us to be thinking about how we're going to use what we've trained for. And we started small, working with another ministry first, and then we branched off on our own. So it's been a journey, and we've really, it's just been incredible what God has done.
Oh, I'm sure it's a lot. And I know we've talked a little bit. I've seen, and you'll have a Facebook page with it too, and kind of gives you updates and things. And if anyone's, with churches, typically, I would say typically, or some of the missions usually go to Africa, and we like reach out to them and help. And you hear, terrible things, then you hear great things. And with that, anything, with mission work or trying to be a part of God's work and helping and everything comes with some really big ups and, mountains and then some valleys. And it goes back, it's, that's that constant, that fight. But it's great that y'all are doing it. And that's a great side that it started that way, so that's the foundation with it already. Let me see if I can be real clever. You sent me some pictures. I'll try to use it so I can pull up the map, because I like that you sent me here's Africa, here's the Dominican Republic, here's Congo. So let me see here. If I'll be ever so clever. Yes, start this. And then we're going to share. I guess I would show y'all too. But again, for people listening on the podcast, sorry, but on the YouTube version, watching on YouTube, you should be able to see the map here. So let me see. Yeah. So here is said map. Here's Africa. And this is that main portion there. Is it, this is where y'all have always kind of been focused on?
Yes, we have. This is where we started.
Right.
And you see the map on the left there, that big mustard colored yellow in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
That, yes. That is a huge, that's a huge place. We're in about 9 provinces of that country, and that country does not have much infrastructure because of wars that have been continual through time. There's a lot of minerals there, a lot of volcanic activity. Even the world's largest shield volcano is there, and it actually erupted a couple of years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And covered part of the airport, part of the city where our staff live.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've done things like, volcano relief and things like that as well in the name of ministry. So anyway, in that huge area there. And then we also work in Rwanda, which was the map on the right. And this is tiny little country.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, we work kind of right on the border between those two countries, and with groups that are in both of those areas, both of those regions.
Well, very good. Yeah, here we go. And I'm trying to look through as you talk too, because I know there was a picture of kind of the volcano relief that y'all do, and that was going to be, and we can kind of talk about that now. But what all we bring Bibles into the country and share them and share the word, but you're also helping write food. This volcano or natural disaster relief, are you digging wells, reaching people with medical aid? is it everything and in between, or what was like the start of like the main focus, and then what do y'all touch on now?
The relief projects generally come up on an interim short-term basis when there's, something that happens that's, affects them immediately, like the volcano, or
like the war that just
the war that's going on right now, or even some viruses that Ebola viruses that pop up or something.
Yes, I saw a lot of on your website, and we'll talk about that later, but equipdisciples.org, there's a good portion that talks about Ebola and everything on there. Right. So y'all have some great, and I'll mention it again, but there's some great information and everything on there, as well as media content as far as little videos and clips and just information of what y'all do. Here this is, why we need to do this. Hey, Ebola, like that people would forget about or not really think about. There's a lot going on, and it's great that y'all started it. And then also, hey, let's put on some races every year to reach people.
So life is really tough there on a daily basis. And then when these additional contingencies hit, it makes it really, really hard. But we have this network of Bible studies that's going on a weekly basis. And so there are thousands of people who are involved in these Bible studies. And then when these events are impacting their lives, we are able to go in and help them directly through the network, through the leaders that we have on the ground there, and through the network of organization that they have.
Yeah, fantastic. And you said we talked about being grateful, being happy to be in creation and stuff. And this is the kind of thing that people should consider when you can walk freely in your house with like your Bible or go to church and not worry about being rated or people just bringing so much like hate and violence into it. Because some people really deal with that like every day. And then maybe they get a couple days where they're like, hey, we had a good worship and we've got some food right now. And then insert natural disaster or raiding and killing of people, and like, a constant thing. Like we have no idea, right? Unless you maybe go on a mission or you've lived there and everything. So it's, again, more emphasis on, it's so wonderful that y'all find the time and the need or the purpose to help with what you can help, and some of these, and we'll kind of go back to the races. So some of the money that's brought in through these races, right, go to that. Is there one specific thing, or is it kind of the whole Equip Disciples, fund or everything, or when do they go? And I'll show the picture of the medal here in a second, which sounds funny calling it a medal because it's wood, but
yes. Well, usually the fund goes toward Bibles and Bible study materials. We have a print shop there in Goma, but it was all shot up in this war, by the way, that just came.
Oh my.
We lost our equipment. But we print our own materials, and that saves on cost. And then we distribute them through our staff. Sometimes we mail them because some of our groups are just too far away to even be able to get there by road. You have to fly there by airplane.
Wow.
So it is a crazy place to work. For example, sometimes we get Bibles, and you mentioned the worship services there and how we have freedom here just to go in and worship and singing. You take your Bible on Sunday morning. Well, there sometimes in the villages, this is what happens in their worship services. A guy comes in with a suit and he has a Bible, but under his coat is a gun. And he comes into the service and he pretends to be a follower of Christ. And at the end of the service, he pulls out his gun and he forces the young men, and sometimes young women, to come with him to serve in these militias that are operating. And if you do, maybe your life is spared. Sometimes when they leave the church, they lock it up and they burn down the church with everyone inside. Recently, we've had Bible study members killed. Sometimes Christians are targeted. So when we do our trainings, we bring people from these remote areas to one location, and we train them how to do missional Bible study, and then we send them back. It's far too dangerous for anyone like us to even go there, because we would be an automatic target for kidnapping. We've already had some of our staff kidnapped over the past couple of years by rebel groups. And thank the Lord that we were able to get them back. The government actually intervened and got them back. But
Wow.
many people are killed. Many pastors, women, and their children are killed. And in this case, it was one of our staff members' wives and their kids that were taken and threatened. So it is a very challenging place to work. And so the Bibles that we gained from the run and from and also the teaching materials really bring courage and strength to believers that are there and help spread the gospel. The people that are doing the missional groups, they live there. They know, they live in these kind of circumstances all the time. I can't imagine having to live in fear all the time. And anyway, they do an amazing work there. To have, 8,000 people in Bible studies every week in the midst of these kind of situations is pretty amazing for them. They're the ones doing the work of ministry. We're doing training and providing materials. We're building them up, equipping them for ministry, like Ephesians 4 says, to that the gifts are given in the body to build it up for the effective work of ministry. And that's what we do. But they're the ones actually out there doing the hard stuff, and puts us to shame, really.
I've been able to work with a couple of churches, and I work with mine right now, and hearing some of the stories that they talk about, that we're putting this, and the good, like I said, mountain and valleys are really a kind of a good way to put it, because there's a lot of struggle that goes into it and terrible things, but there's a lot of great things that can come out of it too. But that's something that is always that is there, that they're becoming Christians, or they're spreading and they're discipling like they are meant to do, and constant, like we said, just insert problem. But it's very sad when it's other people, or they come into the church like that, and everyone is maybe thinking that, but they're trying to have a good heart, and they're like, maybe he means good, we shouldn't judge him, and then the worst happens. And with that, like, that's a huge amount of people too for Bible studies, and that's fantastic. And with anyone listening, and I think everything can come back to being grateful. So here we are in America, and you're like, oh, hey, right now, church is coming up Sunday, but it's going to be cold, or the weather, or some non crazy excuse is what it is when you can't, I'll stay home and I'll watch it online or something else. And like, oh no, you have to drive 30 minutes to be with church in a place that probably has coffee and breakfast, or, hugs and safety around it. Like, yeah, that'll correct your heart and your posture with some ways. And you really understand, like, you don't, you get to go to church, not that and you should, but we have no idea, that, oh no, it's, it's February right now and it's kind of cold. And like I said, whatever, I feel kind of sick this morning. Like, really? Well, let me tell you about. So yes, it's very serious. It's very great. And like I said, it's wonderful that you're all here. And I hope, this is to help kind of bring more eyes and ears to everything you do. Let me see here real quick. Since you said I wanted to read a couple on from y'all's website, and you mentioned Ephesians. So it has Ephesians and Matthew on here, and I'll just read Ephesians real quick since we mentioned it, because it's perfect in a common one with missions and things. But it says, so Ephesians 4:11-13, to equip God's people to do his work and build up the church, the body of Christ. This will continue until we all come to such unity in our faith and knowledge of God's Son that we will be mature in the Lord, measuring up to the full and complete standards of Christ. So again, there's Ephesians 4:11-13, equipping God's people, to be part of the church and the body of Christ, and to share everything there. And now I do want to bring up since I mentioned it, the medal, and I have one hanging that way, but it's over there, and it's, again, calling it a medal is odd. So let's talk about these guys here that are hand carved wooden awards that y'all get given out. And are these done by one particular place in the Congo or in Rwanda, or everyone? And how do they? What's the process? Let's talk about this.
Okay, well, these are hand carved and made there in Goma, DR Congo. Joe, do you want to describe any of that process?
Yes, there are places where you can go in the city where there are workshops of carvers and all. And so we've sent over the design that we want to have done, and our staff has gone and worked with them to, have these handcrafted there. And so it's really a good thing and a fascinating thing. When you go to Africa, you can buy all sorts of, little wooden items, but you can also have them craft something specific, special. And so that's what we've done. And so every year they go and we get these carved and shipped over here, and we have to plan several months in advance in order to have the carving done, and the transport time too, the delivery time.
Yeah, these medals made it out of Congo just 1 week before the rebels took over the city this year.
Wow.
And we just got them this week. So we were worried about them making it because of all the difficulties over there currently. But you can see in the picture there, the man's running is a little bit unclear at the top. You can see a Bible that he's running toward, kind of.
Yeah,
it's harder to see. Yes, that's it.
Okay. I was going to ask about what's the particular meaning or anything done here, and how they it's a card by hand, and they stain it or lacquer it and everything. And then I believe it's not like a chain or a ribbon. Is it a leather?
Yes, it has a leather strap on the top. Yes.
Very good. And is this all the medals for just this race, or both this one and the Nuit?
We ordered the La Nuit one separately because it says La Nuit at the bottom. And so we'll be getting those later in the year. But they both come from the same.
Right. Okay. They're very cool, and they're very light. It's a good piece of, I don't know, 4x6, kind of a rectangular or something. It's a good size, and it's very light, and it's really neat. Just added up to more like the great kind of fascinating and uniqueness, that this brings. And if somebody, wants to do one of these races, one, it's a great opportunity. The course is hard and a great workout. And the two different, we'll kind of go into that now. But the two different, let me see if I can be real cool. We'll go this way. Haha. So the Nuit, and then let me see if it shows me. Okay, just that one. So it is a night race, and the one going on now, in 2 weeks, is a marathon, and then a half, and like a 10K and everything. But that one, we can kind of touch on that one since it's coming up and what people can expect, and then we can talk about the night race. So what's some fun details or specifics about the one coming up in March?
Well, for one thing, it's an afternoon race, and a lot of races are in the morning. But in order to work at Cedar Ridge Preserve, which is a very busy place, and we've been running races there for about 10 years. This is about our 10th race. But during this 10-year time frame, the preserve just gets busier and busier every year. And so it really gets packed out in the mornings. When they open up in the morning, they'll have a line of cars, lined up on the road, ready to get into the preserve. And of course, weather pending, depending on the weather. But for that reason, it's much more amenable to them for us to do the race in the afternoon after some of the crowd has let up some. And then we're able to run, all the way into the evening with the marathon and all. And so that allows us to keep on using the venue, and they are very favorable to that.
I'll add that the route for this run is different than the La Nuit. So
I was just going to ask that. Okay. Yeah. How many loops does it make, and what's the course difference? Yeah.
You actually see more of the park this way, and it's really beautiful.
Right.
Since the light is up, the sun is up, you get to see more. You get to go by some of the same areas, but Joe, maybe you can describe the trail a little bit on that.
Right. So for the spring run, again, there's still a lot of people on the trail in the afternoon. And so we run it in a counterclockwise fashion around the park. And
which is opposite. That's opposite of the,
correct.
Okay.
And in the summer run and the night run, we try to keep it on the interior of the park. And we have just a 5K loop that you run over and over repeatedly. But for this spring run, we try to use all the trails possible. And by running basically the perimeter of the park, the exterior trails, starting off on the least used trails and then getting to the more populated trails, we're able to minimize the traffic problems and all. And in the process, we're able to just squeeze out a quarter of a marathon by running all the perimeter and adding on one little out and back section that's about 1/10 of a mile.
Oh, wow.
About just a tiny bit that adds on a little bit, and that gets you to a quarter marathon. So the marathoners run, 4 loops around. And of course, you didn't see all of the trails, but I assure you that there's a lot of tough ones out there. And I always make sure that we run the toughest trails, but it's easy to do when you run them all.
I was going to say that Joe always makes sure that the route is the most difficult.
So you mark it or lay it out, Joe?
Yes, I do.
Awesome.
I sort of get out there on Friday afternoon, lay out about half of it, and then Saturday morning I lay out the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe's like, these are ultra runners. We've got to have the ultra experience,
Yeah, and that place, it's a neat spot over there. There is lots of trails kind of packed in the nature preserve, and then it's right between the Cedar State Park, and then next to Big Cedar, I think that's what it's called, the other kind of mountain bike, other trails park. Yes, it's a good spot. And there's actually an FKT that connects all 3 parks, and you kind of run through. So it's a really cool spot, and the preserve in particular is really popular, really enjoyed. It does have some nice wide trails, some smaller single track. You climb a lot. They've got a lot of built-in kind of steps, one for like erosion too and everything, but it's a really cool spot right in the middle. I went to the middle of Dallas, but where it is, it's good. It's a good location. Yeah, I'm really glad y'all do it there. And then I did notice that, this one, the spring run is kind of later in the afternoon. So those distances are the marathon, there's a half, and then is there a 10, 5, and a 1 mile?
That's correct. Yes.
All right.
You got it. You got it all.
Awesome. So let's talk. I did get to run the La Nuit last year, which is a night race, and it is pronounced La Nuit, not La Nuit, which a lot of people take a second to like, what is this? And what attracted to me at first, well, it was one, seeing the name Run4Bibles, and I was like, oh, like this is like a Christian setup more than likely. But also it is a night race, but the format of it is like somewhat of, there's a handful of different ones, but almost like a last man standing, not necessarily, but as many laps as you can do a single person, right? And you correct me, I guess, after I'm saying all this, but as many laps as you can do of this 5K loop, and like a 3, a 6, and a 9 hour. But then there's also like a team division, which is what I did last year, and it's really fun. So why? And you kind of mentioned, you told me, Tammie, that like, it's French, and that's kind of what goes on, and it's spoken in Africa, the Congo. So why the name? Where did that come from? Maybe because it's a night race. Why the night race? And then who thought about the format ideas, and why is that? And kind of everything there, because I really enjoy. It's a really cool event.
Well, we added the night race onto our Run4Bibles because we really needed some more fundraising for our groups, our Bible study groups in the Congo. And that is such a dark place. We were thinking of, the night race kind of depicts that struggle that they have in that very dark place. And anyway, Joe can explain what all about the logistics of the race itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had done the spring race 1 year or maybe 2 years. And we had talked about, okay, this is good. This is a good fundraiser, for our ministry and all. And then we thought, okay, could we do another race sometime? is it possible that we could take on another race and do another fundraiser race at a different time? And previous to us, there had been another group that had done races out there in Cedar Ridge Preserve. And one of the races that they had,
Big Cedar, right?
no, it was actually in the preserve, but then they stopped doing it in the preserve. For whatever reason, they just, pulled out. And one of the races they had was this type of all-night run where you could run as many laps as possible, the 3, 6, or 9 hour format. And so since they kind of abandoned it, we talked to the preserve and said, could we take this up? Could we, do a night run out here in July, end of July? That's when it is. And so they said, okay, yes, they were satisfied that we had done, a respectful job, with the crowds and all in the spring. And so then we were able to do the night run as well and add it on. And we changed up the format a little bit and tweaked it a little bit and changed up the trail a little bit to make it a full 5K loop. And again, picking the toughest route possible in the process. So that's kind of how it started there.
Awesome. Yeah. When it being a nice night race is a unique thing to kind of do. And they become a little more common during the summer in Texas.
Right.
So great for that. It was still, everyone was still pouring sweat. It's like, oh,
right.
It's midnight and it's still 80 degrees outside, or, it's a real, I'll get into the details of what I remember and kind of give people tips maybe and kind of coax them into doing it. But have either one of y'all ran one of the races?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so I had done the 9 hour race the year before we picked it up and started it. And so it's like I was looking at, to see, okay, when is it scheduled for this year so I could run that and so on. And it wasn't scheduled. And so that's how I initially decided, learned that it had been dropped there.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
So yeah.
You're like, yep, let's make it. It's difficult already. I'll adjust it and we'll bring it into our wonderful. Yeah.
Certainly.
It's got a great starting point kind of by the parking, and y'all have, the tent set up and everything. Like I said, they've got snacks there, and, we send everybody off with a prayer and thank you for coming. And it's a lot of energy for the, and I did the team 9 hour loop.
Right.
And, which is the only way to go. I thought about doing, if I do it again this year, which I am, I'm either going to do the solo or another team thing, but I really like the team aspect because that kind of relay feel, it just brings a whole nother layer of energy, and it's fun. And you're like, they go off into the woods and it's dark and you're like waiting to hear them come back and everything. And, a couple, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the relay aspect of it is something we just added a few years ago. Maybe it was 4 or 5 at this point, but anyway, it had been several years that we had started it. And then we, Tammie had the idea, why don't we add a relay, option in there as well. And so it is a really fun option. We've had some families do it.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool. Father, mother, daughter team that's done it a couple of times. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, very, very good. It's, I'll say a couple of pro tips that I realized towards, and if it's the same, I would assume it's kind of the same setup as last year, the course trail, but you get, it's less than a mile. It might be half a mile or like 0.8. There's a point where you can kind of, you're almost back to the start. You can kind of see and you can hear the people. So last year there was some people, they would shout out to their team, like, I'm coming around the corner or whatever.
Right,
you get ready. Because there's a crucial, which we, a teammate that I ran with, my buddies, Will Bryan and Jeff Claprope, you have to be able to trade off your bib because that's the timing. We're like, oh yeah, like we don't want to take these pins off every time and reclip it to us. Like we could hold it in our hand or something. Some teams brought like a belt, I guess, that had ran it before and kind of had the bib attached to the belt so they could just like click and go. I was like, oh man, we got to figure something out. And so if you can give your team a heads up that you're coming, either make a code word or just yell, and you come through it. He had a running water bottle that has like the hand strap, and so we put the bib inside the bottle. And it was just like a baton and it worked great. So if you're gonna do it with your team, bring a belt or something to kind of quick off and on. They have those magnet clips too, but I think the baton style with the running bottle was wonderful.
Right.
So that worked really good. And I can't remember how many laps we did. We did pretty good. And I was trying to make it back to the start finish line in enough time, because I was just going to run another lap, because I believe you'd said, like, if you make it back with time left, if it's like 5 seconds, you can start. As long as you start it, you'll get that, and finish it.
Right.
You'll get that tacked up. And I remember coming around and you can see the lights and hear the people and stuff. And I'm coming. And it was the last lap, and I needed maybe like 3 more seconds. I was like 12 feet from the finish line, and I was like, but it was and again, that was 8 hours of running, 9 hours of running. So it was a treat. And it really works out too, because when you do the relay, you have an hour before you run again, or more. Right. Because if you have 2 other buddies, he takes 30 minutes or more. The other guy takes 30 minutes or more. Like, you are rest up, you're ready, you want to run. And by that time, so I take off again. And then having the whole, again, it's dark. So the headlight aspect and some of that, you get the kind of tunnel vision, and you just kind of go, it's a real treat. I really enjoy it. And I thought, again, like maybe doing the solo just to push myself to not have that kind of rest. You kind of time your stuff or your nutrition and fueling, how you're going to do it. Because there's lots of climbing, lots of big steps you have to kind of take up. But it's a really cool event. So if anyone's thinking about doing it, the relay is really fun. Get ready to push it, and it's not as difficult because you do get some time to rest. So there's that portion. And I think when we went last year, the other team, like, we got 3rd or 4th, but we tied with one of them. But like the top 2 teams, that both of them broke the record before of like what was done. They were getting after it, and those are some buddies of mine that run with Texas Outlaw Running and put on those races and stuff. So we had a real good time. So I'm looking forward to it again for this year. But did I miss anything or anything that needs to be added?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that last little add-on loop. It's 0.6 of a mile, that last little loop.
Okay.
But that is one of the modifications I made in the prior course, is that I said, okay, I want to get this to be a full 5K on this loop. And so that was the one little add-on there that happened. And it makes it fun, because you do come, you're almost to you're within sight of the lights of the finish line, but you have to go back out for that.
Yeah.
I hear bird calls coming from there. I say, what is that? And then I realize, those are teams signaling each other.
Yes. Figure out a bird call, code word, flash your light or something. I think some had like little bells maybe or something. It's such a cool, it's a really cool hidden gem. It needs to be like one of the biggest races in July. It's really neat.
We even have ramen at the finish,
Oh, yes.
aid station.
That's right.
Yes. The ramen is.
You don't want to eat anything. Yeah, and we have our own chef. We have a chef that comes and volunteers, and all of our volunteers are they're not paid. They just come. They want to help us, and so one of them is kind of a makeshift chef, and he cooks quesadillas and hot dogs and other things kind of during the early parts of the race, but the later parts of the race, he kind of gets down to the broth and things like that when you're no longer hungry,
Smart,
you can't eat anything.
Yeah, easier things to consume or digest and everything. Yeah, it was. They were all very nice. I was going to ask too. Is it are the volunteers coming from like your church, or just people that sign up to do it, or are they part of the missionaries that go to, or anything like that?
All the above.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And with the races too, is there any thought of another race? Is it only in Texas? Have you done any in Africa? Is there any changes you're thinking of or anything like that?
We actually wanted to do one in Africa, and we've talked about it for a number of years. We just haven't worked it out yet. It would be in a very unique place, though, because it's where they do the Olympic training.
Oh.
And they also have an Ironman there because they have Lake Kivu, where people will swim. Then they have these mountain races, and they have biking. So Rwanda is well known for that. There's an Ironman that's very famous there every year. So I thought, wow, that would be such a cool place to have a race. So we've kind of scoped it out a little bit. We haven't fleshed it out entirely. But one of the challenges really for us here is that our volunteers have been with us for so many years,
Right.
you know, and some of them are part of Bible study groups that we actually do here in the States.
Right.
And so if we were to go, like we've talked about going up to Amarillo and having one in the canyon there,
Oh yeah.
because that's a great place to run. We've done the run out there often. And then New Mexico also, because it's kind of close by. And we thought, well, you know, it'd be great to do one there. But finding the volunteers that can go there or be there, that's our challenge right now, is to figure out, okay, how can we actually do that and manage it? Because we would love to do something like that. We're just thinking logistically, okay, what do we need to do for that to happen?
Yeah, because numerically, most of our volunteers do come from Bible studies that we're leading right here, you know, at church or at home and all. So that is a large portion of them.
Actually, it would be easier for us to do one in Africa because we have all of our contacts there.
That's right. We have volunteers there in the Bible study.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the best bet for one upcoming.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be so cool. And that was my thought. I was like, well, if they're over there, Laura, they have connections and networking, and I know people are the places. I knew there's a lot of running kind of goes over there too. I don't know specifically where, but oh yeah, that would be really neat. And just another opportunity for people they're closer there, hear about it, or want to do like a neat destination kind of race. Because obviously it sounds really cool. But it would be I like Texas brings, thankfully, well, one, because it's so big, but it covers, you can get canyons, you can get desert, and you can get flat, and you can get trees, you know, and pines and forests. And so you kind of can cover all that. But it is really nice when you can be in when I did my 50 miler, it was in Quanah, so kind of deserty canyon kind of esque.
Yes.
And I had never really ran in that. And I got there and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It was totally different and unique and everything. And with the 100K, it's probably kind of where y'all were just mentioning. I think Santa Angela is really close to Amarillo, but it's at their state park there, and it's deserty canyon, kind of flat dirt and everything. And so it's a nice change of pace. And then we go up to Tyler and you can get into the pine trees and the forests and things like that. So it offers a lot here, but that's still not Africa, another place. And like I said, even New Mexico, just a way to change it up and reach more people. And it's fun, yes, but it's all for a great cause and purpose and everything. So, yeah, that's really fun. That's exciting. Again, anyone it's interested in these, I highly recommend doing it. Hopefully the weather, I know right now we're dealing with Texas weather, again, to say just bananas. It was like 80 degrees a week and a half ago or so, and now we're freezing at night and it's going to be raining, but hopefully, in a week or 2
weeks.
Yes, hopefully by the time the race comes, and that's what I'm hoping for my race too, we'll kind of act like we're in spring.
Moderate, yes.
Yeah, we'll kind of come back. Let me see here. So I wanted to also, and I read the Ephesians one, so I've got the website pulled up again, so equipdisciples.org, but you have a verse of Matthew on there, and I was going to read that as well, because they're good, and it kind of represents you on what you do. So Matthew 28:19-20 says, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. So another great kind of popular or known or not known verse, but for discipleship and talking about going out, and kind of and working and glorifying God and spreading the word and growing in, these good means and everything. So these are great. And I'll mention if anyone has any questions, and I'll ask y'all of a way where anyone can reach you. But the website itself, information on the races, there's Ultra Sign Up. It's on Ultra Sign Up, and there's details there, but it will link to the equipdisciples.org. And it is full of great information, kind of like we mentioned earlier. There's right here, there's stuff for Run4Bibles and their races and the location. And then everything y'all do and how to donate and help. But what are some ways if someone would like information, or they want to reach out and have questions about what you do, or they want to help or volunteer for the race and things? So what are some ways people can contact you or find you and help out?
Well, we have our website up, and the website is beta. I think it was on one of the slides. Maybe you can re-show that, but it's beta.equipdisciples.org. That's because we have a second website that has some of our theological materials on it that we haven't shut down yet. for space wise, Google has a thing about space. And so
Yes.
anyway, so we have one that has resources on it. So beta is like our second site, but it's the one that we use and keep updated as far as what's happening in the ministry. Yes,
Mhm.
they're at the bottom of the screen there.
Yeah.
Or you can email me at Tammie, TAMMIE, .equipdisciples.org. So, or at equipdisciples.org, and you can reach me that way. And there's also links on Ultra Sign Up. You can send me a message. Notice that it says Run4, the number 4 Bibles. Whenever you're looking it up on Ultra Sign Up, please remember, don't put a space. Keep the words together, the number 4 Bibles, and then that way you'll be able to find us.
Yes, that is important. It is the number 4, not FOR. But if anyone searches it, it will, it'll say that on Ultra Sign Up. I mean, it'll show it there too. Are y'all in need of volunteers, or can people already sign up for the La Nuit?
Yes, everything's up. All registration is up. And yes, we always can use more volunteers. So we have a good number. We have actually a huge number of volunteers this year. And, but we can always use more. It helps our trails be safer. We can put more people out to help show the way and say, hey, be careful here. There is new construction out on the trails. They've been adding some more wood so that they can keep the trails open in very muddy situations,
Right.
So they're adding a lot of I don't know, wood, what would you call it, logs and things like that.
You call it a corduroy road.
Yeah,
basically.
almost like a
with the logs going sideways across the trail.
Yes.
Lighting the trail.
So those are not quite locked into the ground yet. So some areas that could be treacherous. We just want to have people placed on the trail,
Right.
say, hey, be careful here, that kind of thing.
And because we do also, in addition to the longer races, we also do have still a 5K race that we add into the mix. And so that has to have a shorter, interior of the park trail. And so the markings are a little bit complex on that. I think they're very well marked. If you see the signs, it's good. But if there's people standing in front of the signs, you have to, it's good that we have people standing at those junctions to help navigate if there's any confusion, and to be, tell the 5Kers, keep going this way,
100%. It was pretty well marked and everything. But that changes when you're tired and you're 6 miles into something, and it kind of becomes, you're just kind of moving and flowing, especially when it's dark and it's harder to see too.
Right.
So it's very nice. And these don't, I don't believe it, and that's why I'm asking. So does the marathon, the one happening on the first, okay. There's not aid stations. There's just one. Is there just a start and finish line, or is there like a break point somewhere, or like a water table or somewhere?
There's 2 aid stations out there on the trail.
Okay.
And
so we have 3 altogether.
Okay.
For our spring run, we have more aid stations out on the trail, and they actually have food. And for the La Nuit, we try to have a station out there in the middle.
There was one,
water or Gatorade or something, but it's kind of scarce food. But these races are fully everything.
Okay.
Out there,
right.
Yeah.
And so the aid stations are, spaced at 1.5 to 2.5 mile intervals.
Oh, wonderful.
So
very easy for most ultra runners,
Right.
Yeah.
They just usually run right by. They don't even stop.
At least early, they don't need to stop. They're just going.
I was going to say, I would say more than, when in doubt, have a couple just in case, because someone could need to contact if they got hurt or something, if they don't have their phone on them, which I will note. I believe y'all haven't noted, like, you bring your phone for safety if you can,
right.
Come on. But there was having the table there if you need water, or if you get hurt or injury or something, and it helps y'all, I'm sure, kind of keep track of stuff just in case. If someone can call and say, okay, This number just passed, or this last guy just passed, or whatnot. And then also, or, hey, I got someone who rolled their ankle, whatever. So then those are opportunities for people to volunteer, is what I'm getting at, I guess, at aid stations and everything there. So,
and something I might add too, especially if they are just kind of more inexperienced runners, having good trail shoes is a good asset to have. People that run with road running shoes, sometimes they're flatter soles, and there's just so many different types of terrain out there. There's gravel, there's rock, there's dirt, There's
Like
wood,
mulch
and if the wood
yeah.
is wet, it's slick. So,
Yes.
we've had people really, they have gotten hurt. We had broken bones and things. So, and part of that was because they just didn't wear the right shoes. So if you come out, be sure you have on good trail shoes and ones that you're used to running in and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. If you live in the area, which I was fortunate enough to do before the race, I would go check out the course because
Yes,
it
definitely.
is the full spectrum of, well, this is wide and open and this is nice and rolly. And it's like, some of it's a nice, I'd say it's all nice, but some of it is a bunny hill level trail and
Yeah.
nice and easy.
Correct.
And some of it is some serious climbing, hiking,
Yes.
rocking. If you think you're going to run up that, be prepared to work.
Right.
And
Yes.
it definitely can be slippery depending if there's moisture or rain or whatever. It really covers the gambit from nice dirt, which then can become mud, to mulch, to rock, to roots everywhere and the logs everywhere. And it's also the descending that gets, if you're not used to
Yes.
descending, it's like I said, it's not just hills. It's like, it's really up and down. And so you can trip and
Yes.
really have a bad time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That can be the worst injuries right there, is on the downhill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they put out fresh mulch, which is great, anticipating the spring rains, but it is thick. It's like, what, Joe, what is it?
It's-
Like, I don't know, 6 inches
6
thick or
or-
something.
Thick,
So
yeah.
it's hard to run through, actually.
It's actually very squishy and will slow you
Yeah.
down probably. So
Wow, another layer of difficulty, Joe. Way to go! Yeah,
Sure.
It's like
you
an
didn't even have to. Yeah,
It's like an ultra obstacle course, kind of. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
fun run.
yes. I'll say it again. It's very unique, very cool, a cool spot. If you can get there and check it out before the race, I would definitely recommend one to just, if I can ever do that, it's nice to do. So you kind of know what you're getting into and running and stuff. And it's just a nice trail anyway. So, fantastic, guys. I hope I would love to come out, just to come out and say hi to y'all and be a part of it and everything. So
Yeah.
whether permitting and with training and stuff going on, it would be awesome. So thank y'all so much again for making the time to come out here and join me
Yeah.
on the podcast and share everything. If anyone's
you for having
listening, yes, anyone's listening that wants to help, and I'll put your email and the information kind of in the descriptions that'll be with the podcast episode. So if you want to reach out and be a volunteer or learn more about what they do with Equipped Disciples, check out their website and reach out to them if you want to help or do anything with this. This is such a good, a great thing that y'all started, and it's growing. And I hope, again, this kind of brings more eyes and ears to your mission and the project, and that can have also some fun running, and also do some really good with y'all. So Joe and Tammie, again, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Frank. Thanks for having us.